morning. I am you can see the boxes in the back. We're unpacking some conference room equipment. So ignore those. As you're joining in, will you tell me where you're joining from? I've got to get this set up in the other rooms. Why am I not seeing the event? I'm going crazy. Oh, here it is. Whew. All right. Gotta love tech. Tech on a Friday, right? All right. So as you're joining, just come in and say hi. Let me know where you're seeing this from. And what's something that you're working through? What's been your biggest frustration this week? That was the question that I was supposed to ask today. So as you're joining in, if you would let me know what's been your biggest frustration this week. Sweet. I love seeing people come in. Streaming software. Edit. Stream key. Oh, man. This should work. We had some weird tech issues this morning, so we're just crossing our fingers that all of this is going to work now. There we go. That is working. Q&A. Awesome. And go live now. I was hoping to do all of this before we started, but technology will get in the way every time, right? There we go. We're gonna move the boxes so that no one sees them. All right. Good enough. You can still see the blanket, I guess, but all right. As always, we're going to cut out that first part. So if you were here and got to see the raw, unedited version of us trying to get this stuff put together, then congratulations. You're the only one who gets to see it. One last thing, I just got to pull up the slides so you guys can see those. There we go. Perfect. Okay, looks like everything's up and running. All the platforms are now working. And so I'm going to trying to decide what's the best place to put this. I'm going to put it here. Then we'll get started. Come on. Go to presentation mode. There it is. No, it's not. All right. As you're joining, I want to know what's been your biggest frustration this week. Oof, that looks like it's frozen. Please tell me it's not frozen. Oh, I told you that the tech was not going to work. It was not going to be our friend this morning. There we go. That is working now. Now I just need to get this slideshow to go in presentation mode. Start from the beginning. Sweet. All right. Let's get the screen shared here. Boom. All righty. Man, I want the presentation bigger. Can I just put me in like a little window? No. All right, whatever. We'll start here. All righty. Well, that was fun. Always fun to try and get tech to work in the morning, but it's here. We're live. We've got a couple comments coming in. So thank you for your patience as we work through this. Ooh, picture in a picture. Aha. See, I knew I could do it. That's better. Yeah, thanks for your patience. We will get started then. So this is kind of a new thing that we're doing. You'll have to tell us if this is what you like or not, but What we're doing here is I wanted to kind of make these lives a little bit more interactive and a little bit more valuable to what you wanted specifically, right? So Alina and I, we've been working together, and what we decided to do is every Monday, we're going to do a poll inside the Time Freedom Lawyers Facebook group. So if you're not a member of that group, go join it so you can see it. So we'll do a poll every Monday. We're going to ask, a list of questions based off of what I've seen in my coaching calls and what people have asked in either my group or other Facebook groups. We kind of keep track of all those questions. We're going to put a couple of them in the poll, see which things you guys want to talk about. Whichever gets voted on the most is what we're going to talk about here. Okay. So the first question that was asked, or the one that got the most popularity, was this: how do you handle clients who think flat fees mean unlimited work? And so we're going to jump in and talk about that today. Okay. With these recordings, we usually trim all the stuff off the beginning, so it's a nice clean recording for the videos after. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to stop talking, give us a nice quiet blip so that we can trim, and then we'll go from there. Okay. All right. Good morning. This is Chris Skyman, the Time Freedom Lawyer, and today is our first ever Friday Q&A. So every week, what we're doing here moving forward is Mondays in the Facebook group, we will do a poll. So if you're not a part of the Time Freedom Lawyers Facebook group, go join it now. We will do a poll there every Monday, asking you a couple of questions that we've received in our different platforms and seeing which of those questions you want us to discuss on Friday. So whatever is voted on the most is what we'll discuss on Friday. And at the end of this presentation, we'll leave a little bit of time open for you guys to ask more questions. So that way, hopefully your questions are getting answered as the things that you're working through, you can get real-time live help. Okay. So this being the first one, the first question that we were asked was, how do you handle clients who think flat fees mean unlimited work? So this is a really important question. And it's the biggest pushback that I get when it comes to flat fees is, yes, I've tried flat fees, but it didn't work because, and then they go on to tell me a story of some client that ran for 5 years on a $3,000 fee and cost them, so much time, money, and energy, right? Or they'll say, I have it, but then every time, like, my clients just think that this is a free for all. Now that they've paid me $3 or $5 grand, they can just do whatever they want. Both are problems, right? So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about that. So if you've had any frustrations with flat fees, specifically along this line of clients thinking it's just an unlimited work, feel free to drop them in the chat. I can see the chats right here. And so if you see me looking over here, that's why I'm looking to see what people have said in the chat. So I would love to tailor this presentation to your specific needs. So if you're having questions about it, please ask while we go. So why this question matters. We talked about this, right? Clients, I think a big one here, and this is why I put this slide in here, was especially when it comes to communication. So the one is, hey, they want me to do stuff, but sometimes, like, as soon as there's a flat fee, they just call. They call every day, they email every day, whatever it is, right? They're just abusing the situation, where when you bill by the hour, you send them a bill at the end of the first month showing, like, hey, all those phone calls you sent us cost you $500, and they stop calling, right? That's also a problem, though. And it's, whenever people talk to me about this, I like to have a good conversation about it, because in order to represent someone well, you do need to know what's going on. So limiting communication is just as big of a problem as too much communication. So what we need here is we need to create a system. I'm going to show you how I do that here in a little bit. But you need to create a system on how to communicate effectively, like how they can communicate with you, how you're going to communicate with them, so that enough information is being exchanged, but not too much information is being exchanged. So when I was thinking through this, I was like, okay, how can I teach this in a short amount of time, right? Because this is an issue and there's a lot of underlying issues, right? We've got value issues, we've got pricing issues, we've got communication issues, we've got all these different issues that are wrapped up in this issue of why flat fees are not working and why clients are abusing the flat fee. So I was like, how do I teach this? And the answer is, it comes down to how you draft your representation agreement. And so we're going to talk about the principles, and then I'm actually going to show you how I've done this in my own way so you can see how to solve these problems. Okay. But that's what I was hoping you guys could get out of this today, is like, if you only get one thing out of this presentation, it is how you draft your representation agreement, and how you use it is going to really create the plan of success for you on and succeed in your relationship with these clients. Okay. The biggest takeaway is the problem is never pricing. If you think that someone's not willing to pay $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 for a service, I mean, don't get me wrong, some people aren't. But someone's not willing to pay whatever amount that is because they don't understand the value. And every time I teach this, I get a lot of pushback. Like, there's no way I could sell. And it's funny, I'll hear like $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 services. Brita Long, she used to have a flat fee coaching service, and she would teach people how to sell $20,000 services all the time. And they were actually having higher closing rates at $20,000 than other attorneys I would see in the same area at $5,000, because it was never about the price. It was always about the value. And I taught this by saying, hey, I just had the tax assessed value come in on my home. It was $650,000. And so I feel pretty confident that's what it's worth, right? If not more. So if I offer to sell you, and I'm not offering this, but if I offered to sell you my house for $100,000, who here would take it? And I can guarantee, as the chats come in, if you're engaging and listening, you'll all say yes, right? Anyone in their right mind would come up with $100,000 to buy my $650,000 house. That's dumb. Even if you don't want my house, right? You just buy it. You could turn around and flip it for $300,000. Someone's still going to pay for $300,000 for a $650,000 home, and you just made $200,000 profit, right? Even if you don't have $100,000 available, I feel pretty confident that you would find a way to come up with $100,000. I even had one of my clients one time, a lawyer, say, like, I would steal it from my mom and buy your house. He's like, because after I did that, I would resell it for $300,000-$400,000. And then I would give her $200,000 back. I would keep $200,000. We would all win. I think she'd be okay with me stealing money from her for a short time. Like, that's how passionate they were of doing that. And I love using this example, and I'm getting people in the chat saying I would do that. Hopefully they wouldn't steal money from their mom, but they would pay the $100,000 for the house. But I love to use this as an example, because in 5 minutes, I was able to convince you to give me $100,000, because it's not about the price. It's always about the value. Now, you have to create a value story there that works for people. But as long as they see the value, they will pay for it. So let's jump in and talk about how to do that. Okay. There's 4 key elements to a representation agreement that are going to ensure that the clients don't expect more than what they're paying for. And those 4 things are: first, what are they receiving? And you're going to notice step 2 is the exact opposite. What are they not getting? And I'm going to show you how I do this in my representation agreement, because this can be tough sometimes when you're doing it. But if in your representation agreement, you are super clear that for X amount of money, you are receiving Y, and you are not receiving Z, right? That is going to eliminate 80% or more of these problems. It's just being super clear on what do you get and what do you not get. Because no one expects to get everything for one price unless you say it that way. And the biggest issue I see when people are selling flat fee services is they're like, it's one fee to cover everything. It's not. It is not one fee to cover everything. It's one fee that will probably cover most of your case, but you should never sell one fee to cover everything. And even Brita, I don't know if Brita's here, and if she is, she can jump in the chat and tell me if I'm wrong or not, because I keep talking about her. But she had a really good program on flat fees for a long time, so I respect what she said. Even her, though, she was selling $15,000, $20,000 services. She put limits on those. It was up to 6 months of representation. It was up to, so it may be everything in the representation, within a certain limit. It was never everything always forever. So never should your flat fee be always and forever. That's never going to work. And it's never fair for anyone, right? I do think it is okay to have a variation in your fees that fits the situation so that both you are fairly compensated for the time that you spend and the client is fairly paying for what they're getting, right? The number one goal when you're doing this should be, what is my client getting, right? Like truly, what is the problem that they have? And am I solving that problem? And what is that worth to someone? Right. And it may be worth different things for different people. Like when I do like a motion for a restraining order or something, right? We had a case where, funny enough, it's my client, but she fled to Egypt with her child and got married. And then her ex-husband, the father of this child, found out. So likelihood of her bringing the child back for parent time that next weekend, pretty low, right? So opposing counsel, who now works for me, funny enough, he filed a restraining order to get the kid back from Egypt. It's quite a big thing. FBI was involved. I was actually able to get her to come across the border about 12 hours before the FBI would have arrested her. So it was a big thing. Whatever. When opposing counsel in this story went to his client and said, it's going to be $5,000 to get your kid back, that's obviously worth it, right? No one in their right mind doesn't say, yes, I want my kid back. That's worth a lot of money to me, right? How much is it worth getting your kid back from Egypt? $50,000, $100,000, $1 million? I don't know. It's a lot, right? Off the screen amount of value. The price that this person paid was $5,000. So value was infinite, price was $5,000. Now, us as business owners, our job is to make the cost to our firm as little as possible. But when you spend time really thinking about what is the client getting, what are they not getting, and what's the cost there, that's step 3, right? How much does it cost? When you're doing this, it makes your clients so much happier, but it also ensures that your clients that you're getting paid the right amount. So value is what they get, price is what they pay, cost is what it costs you to fulfill the service. And that's why I love flat fees so much, is you can really fix those things. You can go in and say, okay, I am going to provide you A, B, and C. So at most, it's going to cost me this much. You're going to pay more than that. That's business, right? People have to pay you, or you don't have a business, and you're going to receive more than that. Now, your sales conversation may be a conversation with them about, hey, this is what it costs, or this is the price. Is that worth it to you, right? And if it's a $650,000 house for $100,000, the answer is yes. If it's, I use motions, like motions to enforce and stuff as my example, because I had a mom come in and be like, my ex was 15 minutes late, and she literally said, nail his ass to the wall. Sweet. And who am I to tell her no, right? So I didn't tell her no, like happy to. I'm happy to help you. What we do is we file a motion to enforce. And I already know how much time that's going to cost me and how much I have to pay my attorneys to do it, right? So that is $3,000. This doesn't change. Price never changes because our costs are here, right? So we know what the price is going to be and what the cost is going to be. I was like, that's $3,000. And she's like, yeah, but 15 minutes isn't worth $3,000. I was like, I agree. I don't think it's worth $3,000. If anyone here thinks that being 15 minutes late is worth $3,000, please let me know. But I'm going to guess as I look at these chats, we're not going to get anybody that says being 15 minutes late is worth $3,000. And so I was like, I agree. So don't do it, right? I'm not going to do it for less, right? Like that would be devaluing who I am as a person and who we do our services. I'm not going to do it for less, but we can all agree not to do it. And that's why I think this is so powerful. And I hope as you guys are watching this and thinking through it, you're realizing that what we need to do here with your flat fee so that clients are happy is truly help them understand what are they receiving and how much does it cost. Internally on the back end, we need to make sure the costs make sense for us, right? But as long as they understand the value and they understand the price, you're going to get rid of 99% of your complaints. Are you going to make every single client happy? No. And are you going to have, zero complaints about your fees? No. But if you're super clear on what they're getting compared to what they're paying, 99% of the time it'll go away. And you do that by making sure they understand what are they receiving, what are they not receiving, how much does it cost, and when do they have to pay? What are the payment terms, right? If you have those 4 things in your representation agreement, you're going to solve most of these problems. So I went through most of this stuff already. Let me make sure I haven't missed anything, right? Yeah, we talked about this. I'm going to skip the slides and show you what I've built, okay? This is what happens. We build slides, and then I get excited and start talking, and I don't do them at all. And it's just what it is. I drive my team crazy, and we talk about it every time, but it doesn't change anything, right? All right. So I'm going to stop sharing that, and I'm going to start sharing this. All right. So this is my pricing appendix. Oh, you know what? It's in the wrong screen. I have a vertical screen, which I love, but kind of looks goofy on the presentation. So let's fix that and do it here. That works better for what we're doing here. Awesome. I got to pull the chat back up. Okay. So this is our appendix, and this is the actual document I use in my firm. And guess what? It is actually really long. It is 12 pages long. And people say, really? You have 12 pages? This is just the pricing of my representation agreement. You have 12 pages for your pricing? Yes, I do. Do I expect people to read this entire thing? No, I do not. Do I think they'll read it all? No, I do not. Do we create emails that reiterates this information to our clients multiple times? Yes, we do, which is the second part of communication, right? So I'm going to talk about that here in a second because it's included in this document. So when someone hires us, I tell them right from the beginning, most clients who resolve their case through mediation invest is an important word here, right? Because they're paying to get something between $7,000 and $9,000. So that's the price that I anchor people to. And we do a whole lot about how I'm going to get to that number here in a second. But what I sell them is it's going to be about $7,000 to $9,000. Now, here in Utah, there's 3 different sources that have said what the average case for a divorce is in Utah, like how much it costs in Utah. Those 3 sources, one says 11,000, I want to say 700. The other one says 13,000 and change, and the other one says 19,800. And I make sure that my potential clients know that my fee is between 7 and 9, and the averages are one of those 3 numbers. Truth is, who knows what the actual average is? I don't know how they come up with that information. I'll tell you from my own personal research, I think it's between 9 and 11 grand. But again, that's just my personal research, but I make sure they know that. And I tell my clients actually all of those numbers. My goal was to provide them the most valuable service I could come up with for a very fair price. And so we're not above market, but we're not below market either. We try to stay right inside the market while providing the most valuable service. And here's how we make it valuable. We prioritize resolving your case. For a long time, my firm was called the Conflict Resolution Center. We still use that brand as part of some marketing and stuff, but the parent company is the Allies Law Firm. The Allies Law Firm services all practice areas at this point, but family law was resolution. So 1, we focus on trying to resolve your case. 2, and look, what's included and what's not included, right? I straight up, now, do I go through this line by line with them when I'm doing the sales presentation? Absolutely not. But I do talk to them about, what do you want to receive? What do you want to have happen? And this is what it costs. And if they come to me and say, that's not worth it to me, great. I don't close them. I want to make sure they truly understand what they're getting, right? And it's not the petition that they're getting the resolution of their case, or at least launching that in this situation, right? So don't go on talking about all the legal mumbo jumbo that you're doing. And we can do a whole presentation on sales later, but do make sure they understand that what they're getting isn't a petition. What they're getting is the starting of resolution. And we charge $4,000. Every single case is a minimum of $4,000. But if they hire us and 2 weeks later we settle their case by email, it's $4,000. That doesn't happen very often, right? But if it does, then that's what they pay. Most cases also have to go to mediation. So now we're looking at $7,000, right? And again, what's included and what's not included. The cost of the mediator is not included. And we send like 5 different emails to our clients during this time to let them know that the cost of their mediator is not included. Okay. So, because that's a super important one. And we get to mediation, even having them sign this and get multiple emails, we still get about 1 in 30 clients that say, oh, I didn't know I had to pay the mediator. Yes, you did. Luckily, we have multiple times that we've told them that and we get confirmation and we make them pay anyways. But even if as detailed as we are on this, clients still try to pull one over on you. So you want to make sure you've been super clear on what's included and what's not included. And then the next thing I have here is our case acceleration and accountability program. And I let them know, look, this is how I keep my team accountable. This is how you keep us accountable. This is how we keep you accountable. And this is how we make sure we keep your case moving forward as quickly as possible. We have a very detailed system on how we do this. We have a team-based communication system. You do not expect to talk to your attorney when you send us a message. You're talking to our entire team. We use a client portal. A team responds within 2 days. If they can't respond, then they escalate it to the attorney, and the attorney responds within 3 days of it being escalated to them. That's our process. And so, do clients expect our attorneys to respond to their messages? Yes. Do we remind them that they shouldn't? Yes. And usually within a week or two, they understand that their questions will be answered incredibly quickly. Very frequently, it's from their case manager. And most of the time, the case manager's response is, I spoke to Chris and here's your answer, right? So we want them to know that the attorney is involved, but that don't expect an actual message from the attorney, which is why we're able to respond so quickly. The next one is financial guardrails. Effectively what this is, and when I teach this, is your case has a plan and you know exactly how much that costs. And if your plan changes, we're going to let you know what the changes in the plan are and how much those changes cost. And we do that before we do any work. If we start working on something in which we didn't tell you the price beforehand, then that's a mistake on our part, because every case has a plan. That plan is valuable and the price is known before we work on it. And then we have a case acceleration system here. This is every week we do an internal audit, and every month we provide them a momentum report. And I make sure that they know this. Hey, you don't need to message me and say what's going on in my case. And the number one time-consuming issue in most law firms is clients saying, what's going on? Can I get an update? Yes, you can. Every month we send you an update. So when we start, we tell them, this is the plan, right? We're going to file the petition here. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing next. The next thing you need to do is X, Y, and Z. As long as they know what the plan is and they know what to expect and they know what they need to do next, and when they'll hear from us again, they don't need to hear from us every single day or every single week. Sometimes not even every single month. But they do have to know what is the plan, what's expected of them, and when can they expect to hear from us again. So recently we had a case, and one of the attorneys in my firm was handling this case, and they were a very time-consuming client. They were contacting our office 2 to 3 times a day. Every time they would contact the office, they were always frustrated. What's going on? What's going on? I don't understand. So that attorney was going to leave my office. We sent out a letter saying that they could pick to stay with him or stay with me. They chose to stay with me. That's a whole nother story we'll tell another time. And so now they're with me, and I sit down with Mr. Time Consuming. And I told him, I was like, hey, look, we have a really good plan for your case. And no one, honestly, I don't know why, my team knows this stuff. I teach it to them too. Just no one had taken the time to sit down and explain to them. We have a really good plan on your case. It's to go to mediation, right? Which they should know. It says it right here, right? Your mediation is scheduled for 60 days from the time I had this conversation with him. And I specifically said to him, it's like, we already have your financial deck done. We already have everything filed. There is literally nothing else to do in your case but to wait for mediation. I was like, so I hope you don't hear from me again. I hope the next time you and I talk is at mediation, because the only reason I'm going to reach out to you is if something is going wrong. So I will see you on the date of your mediation. And the client's like, sweet, thank you so much. He has contacted our office about once a week since then. So it went from 15 times a week to 1. And it's usually just a quick update. Hey, when we're at mediation, I'd like to talk about X, Y, and Z. Can you add that to my file? And my team says, yep, it's added to the to-do list. Chris will go over that with you in mediation. That's the extent of the communication. From 15 times a week to a 30-second interruption once a week, just because the client understood the plan, they understood what was going to happen next, and they understood when they would hear from me again. And so I will now not talk to that client for 60 days. And they are incredibly happy because they understood what's the plan, what is expected of them, and when they can expect to hear from me again. 60 days. So there's plenty of firms out there that'll have, their paralegals text every Wednesday and their attorneys call every Friday, and they're doing all of these things, and the clients are incredibly happy with that. A lot of those firms, if you add up the hourly rates, they're charging their clients between $600 and $800 to do all of that work. I'm able to charge $450 to do that work. Our fee for that is $450 a month. And we start billing that the first full month after they hire us. So if they hire us right now, April 10th, they would get billed for that in May. We intentionally don't bill them the last month. So if, let's say they hire us on April 10th today, realistically, we will go to mediation in July. So what's going to happen here is they're going to pay their fee in May, their retainer in May. They're going to get billed they're going to pay the retainer in April. They're going to pay $450 in May. They're going to pay $450 in June. We're going to go to mediation and settle their case in July, and we're probably done by the end of July. So they would, on their invoice, we would put the $450, but we would waive it. And that way they see a nice little, hey, you saved me $450 at the very end of their case, which makes them like us, right? So we're able to charge less than our competitors by doing it this way. And our clients are happier. And it takes my team less time. Instead of having to text every single week and call every single week, my team is talking to them every couple of weeks, and my attorneys are talking to them once or twice a month at most. So we've significantly cut down our workload. I've probably cut my workload down I've cut 75% off, and we're at 1/4 of what other people are doing. And we're charging half of whatever other people are doing. And so the client's winning because they're paying less. My team is winning because they're working less. And the company is winning because we're making more. And that's that's the nice thing about doing it this way, is everybody ends up being happier because they end up paying less. We end up making more. And my team ends up having to work less, which really helps with burnout and stuff, right? And then you have all the payment terms. And we don't have to go through all of the payment terms here. If you guys have questions about payment terms, I'm happy to answer them. There's not been a whole lot of questions coming in, so I'm going to run out of material here pretty quick if you guys don't have questions. So if you have a question, please ask it. But generally what we do is a large amount up front, or a smaller amount with a payment plan. Now, I'll be honest, I don't know if I've ever had someone pay option 2. This is an anchor. They either pay, because anybody who can pay $1,000 a month probably can just give me $9,000 up front, right? But I anchor them here, and then when they say, well, what can you afford? They end up coming in with $500 a month instead of $100 a month, because no one in their right mind can come in and say that they want to pay $100 a month when they see that the normal price is $1,000, right? So almost everybody is option 1 or option 3. But this is an important thing to remember. As part of flat fees, the advantage to flat fees is that you get to get paid before you do the work, because you know how much it's going to cost, right? And if someone can't afford it before you do the work, why are they going to be able to afford it after you do the work? Sometimes there is an answer to that, right? Like we just did a case recently where she paid $500 up front, no monthly payment plan, because and our hard costs are about $500, so I didn't want to go upside down. But the action that we were doing was a action to get her equity out of the home. And so we did charge a larger total dollar amount than we normally would. And she knew that. We went through this and showed her, and we showed her what it normally would be and what we were going to charge her here, but it was a flat fee. But we waited until the house was sold, and then we got our money out of her half of the equity is what we ended up doing. Right. So there are times in which people can afford things later that they can't afford now. But unless you know that they're going to be able to afford it later, then you shouldn't be waiting, right? If people can't afford it now, they can't afford it later. There's some psychology behind this too, okay? Inside someone's brain, when you have them pay for something up front, what they're comparing the price to is what they're getting. So I'm going to use the Egypt example again, right? I am spending $5,000 to get my kid back from Egypt. No one in their right mind doesn't make that trade. I use this example because the attorney on the other side didn't work for me at the time. He didn't tell him it was $5,000 up front. He just did all the work. The guy had paid a $2,000 retainer initially, was paying his bills, whatever. This attorney does the work. He has to get the FBI involved. He's getting, multiple orders and hearings, and it was a pretty hectic week and a half. So over a week and a half, he racked up like a $5,000 bill. I don't know the exact amount, but roughly that amount. Well, what ends up happening is she moves home. I convince her to move home because this guy was filing stuff and I knew the FBI was going to get involved. I mean, it's not that he didn't do anything. He did the work. I just followed through. She moves home. We go to the hearing and I convinced the judge that she's no longer a flight risk because I literally held up her passport in the camera. I was like, I have her passport now, so she can't leave. So there's no more risk. And the court ended up dismissing the paperwork that opposing counsel filed. So it worked to get her home, and then it got dismissed because she was home, right? So then this attorney sends his client the bill, about $5,000. And the client's response was, that was $5,000 for you to fill out some templates and show up to one hearing for 30 minutes that you lost? So what happened here is the client wasn't comparing get my kid back from Egypt to $5,000. Now, because the work's done, the client is comparing $5,000 to your cost, your time, and your effort. But the problem is clients don't know how hard things are, right? Clients don't know that he pulled some crazy strings to be talking to the FBI and all that kind of stuff, right? Clients don't know that he contacted me, told me what was happening, and because I'm a persuasive person, I convinced my client to come home, right? But I mean, he did all the legwork and he got the kid back. He won. He may have lost the hearing, but he only lost the hearing because the need was gone. But he got this client everything the client wanted. But if you deliver your price after you've done the work, any rational human being is now comparing the price to the cost to you instead of the price to the value to them. And so if you take one thing away from this meeting, I hope it is that you need to be having the price conversations before you do the work. Your clients will be happier if you talk to them first. So once they've paid for it, that leaves their mind, and now they can focus on what you guys are doing together. And as long as you do good work, which if you're watching this video, you're probably someone who does good work, right? The people who don't do good work don't, in their free time, watch trainings on how to make their clients happier, right? And so I have a feeling you're going to do good work. So as long as you do work, your clients are going to be happy. Now, is every single client happy? No, of course not. But are 99% of our clients happy? Yes. We very, very, very rarely get fee disputes or any complaints about our fees because they've always paid for it up front. So that's the biggest thing. As I was going through this today and prepping for this presentation, last night and today. It was, I really wanted to help you kind of see how we can do this in such a way that your team can win, the client can win, and the company can win. You can make more money by doing it this way. It just requires a little bit of planning up front. And that really comes back down to your representation agreement. So I've shown you my representation agreement and how we do that, at least pieces of it. And there's so much more we could go through, but I don't want to belabor the topic anymore. So start with your fee agreement to really understand the value they receive, the price it costs, and they pay, and the cost to you as a firm to fulfill it, right? Even if you're a solo attorney, I think this is a very important skill to start practicing, because like now I have 7 attorneys on staff. Guess what? They all want to be paid, and they're the ones doing the legal work. And so they get paid a good chunk of the legal work, right? So by really paying attention to what the cost is to me, that really set me up to be able to hire attorneys and scale. If you're not valuing your own time as part of this equation, then you're not going to have a profit margin big enough to hire and scale, and you're going to be stuck forever. Now, that doesn't mean you should just charge people more and people pay more for less, right? I want what the client gets and what they pay. I want that gap to be as big as possible. So I'm not saying that clients get this and you're just going to charge more. That's bad. But can you give the clients more and then charge a little bit more? Something I want you to think about, okay? The other thing I want you to think about as you're doing this, especially if you're updating a representation agreement, is the average person wants this. There are some people who are price conscious and the only thing they want is the cheapest service. Generally speaking, I don't think you should cater to these people. I think you should know who the cheapest person in your area is and just refer them to that person and not deal with price fights unless you have a way of truly being just way cheaper than everyone else. But the average person is going to want this, and they're willing to pay that. There are people in your area right now that want this, and they are willing to pay a lot more. You should create a package for those people. We recently had a estate planning client that came in, and we recently raised our prices, and our top end prices we raised by over 50%. We were doing a lot of work for them and realizing just how much time it was costing us. And so our profit margins were actually not, like, even though we were charging way more for those than our other estate plans, they were our lowest profit margin. So we just raised the rates to match. We had someone come in this week who had interviewed the other top 2 estate planning attorneys in the area. And honestly, those attorneys are very talented, maybe even more talented than we are. Had turned them both down, met with us in the meeting, paid a $15,000 retainer. A minimum of 15 grand is what this is going to cost them. They straight up said that the reason they hired us instead of someone else was because our fee was more. There are people out there that want to pay and get the best, and they want the most expensive option because they think most expensive is the best. You should create a product for those people. So, for example, I have a coaching service. My coaching program is very affordable. I have a service that is $120,000 a year. Do I expect anybody to sign up for that? No. We have no marketing budget, no advertising strategy, nothing for that service. But there are people out there that want that white glove service. And so I have it. And when someone signs up for it, I am more than happy to provide it, right? Yeah, the service is incredible. I literally fly out to them. I do a ton of stuff to make it work, right? It's worth every penny. What they're receiving is worth more. Now, am I going to build a business around that? Currently, no. If there's a bunch of you on here that say you want that service, then I'll change my strategy and go for it, right? But no, right? That's not anything I ever planned. I had it because it actually came from somebody requesting something like it, and we built it out just to have it in case this happened, and it may be happening based off of this conversation. So I want you to do the same thing. Now, should you do 120 grand? Maybe not, right? But let's say your basic package is $5,000. What if you had a $20,000 package where you truly like catered to them? I know a criminal defense attorney that he has a high-end package like this, where he literally buys them, like he takes them to a tailor and they create he buys them and they are fitted to a custom suit that fits them. So they get a custom shirt, a custom tie, a custom suit. Everything's fit for that person. They get a haircut. He like just cleans them up so they are presentable for court, and makes them ready to go, right? Picks them up in a black car, takes them there so they feel well taken care of. Now, do 99% of his clients take him on the custom suit black car express offer? No. But he had some people say yes, because some people wanted that. So do that a little bit. What this is going to do for you, okay, and this is what we're going to wrap up on, is when you spend some time thinking about this, of if I was to 10x my price, what would I need to provide to make it worth it? I am not saying sell the same thing for 10,000 more, or 10 times more. That's stupid, right? But what would I need to provide value-wise that would be so valuable that someone would be willing to pay 10 times more? That's really going to get you thinking and creative in such a way that you're going to start understanding your ideal client more and what they want. And I can guarantee your primary offer that you're going to sell to 99% of people will be better if you do this exercise. Plus, if on your pricing sheet, you have a little thing over here that's $20,000, your $5,000 offer is going to sound really cheap. So it's going to do two things for you, right? One, it's going to help you get to know them better. So because you know them better, it's going to be easier to sell. Two, it's going to make your offer look more affordable, because 5,000 next to 20 or 50 looks a whole lot cheaper than if 5,000's the only option, right? So do something like that. If you guys have questions on this topic, please let me know. Feel free to reach out. You can send me a DM and me or my team will respond to those. We've also put together a free pricing and billing guide. So if you comment billing in the comments, all you have to do is one word, billing. If you want to write a whole sentence saying, I want your free pricing and billing guide, we will do that too, right? We'll take care of you, right? But if you comment billing, we will send that to you. And it's really just what we've talked about today, but it's in a word form with kind of a worksheet type style. So you can just take what we've learned and discussed today, and if you go through it step by step, it's going to help you update your billing and pricing so that you get rid of these objections. Also, for those who make it all the way to the end, we have offered a free bonus strategy session with me. So if you comment call instead of pricing, we'll also send you the information where you can schedule a one-to-one call with me, and I'll go through and work through this with you. So can't offer one-to-one very often, right? My time is my most limited resource. But I wanted anybody who stuck through to the very end, I wanted to offer that to you. So as always, thank you for being here. Thank you for your comments and conversations. I love having these conversations with you guys. If you're enjoying this format, you like the Q&A, you like your questions being answered, then make sure you're part of the Time Freedom Lawyers Facebook group, and make sure you're participating in those polls that we do at the beginning of each week. That way we can get your specific questions answered. So thank you all. We will see you next week. Okay. And again, some of the other platforms take longer, so we got to give it about 30 seconds for those platforms to catch up. So I'm going to look sideways, and when I can see myself looking sideways on the other platform, we'll know that it's caught up. All right, sweet. It's ready. So thank you all for being here. If you got to see the beginning and the end, then good work. I'm impressed you stayed the whole time. See you next time.